Arizona, 1874. The merciless sun hammered down on the canyon walls, turning the world into a furnace of red rock and golden dust. The silence was broken only by the echo of gunshots ricocheting between the stone sentinels. Three men took cover behind boulders, firing wildly at the lone figure crouched behind a dead horse. Logan Stone, former major in the Union Army, now a bounty hunter with a reputation that traveled faster than telegraph wires, checked his Colt single-action Army 45. Two bullets left. His Winchester Model 1873 lay empty beside him. 6 shots had found their marks earlier. 6 shots, 4 dead men. The mathematics of survival were simple out here. The tallest outlaw shouted over the rocks, "Give it up, Stone! You're outnumbered!" Logan's weathered face, framed by a week's worth of salt and pepper stubble, cracked into a grim smile. "Can't count too good, can you? Started with 7 of you boys. Only 3 left. Odds are improving." He'd been trailing these horse thieves for 2 weeks across the territories. The bounty would keep him fed through winter if he survived the next 5 minutes. Logan's mind worked like clockwork, calibrating distance and angles. He'd spent years perfecting the art of staying alive in a land where death waited behind every rock. At 38, the lines around his eyes told stories of battles fought, both in the war between the states and in the unforgiving expanse of the frontier. Taking a deep breath, he spun from behind his cover, fired once, then again. The shots echoed like thunder. 2 bodies hit the dirt. The third man bolted, scrambling onto his horse, spurring it into a frenzied gallop. Logan watched him disappear into the shimmering heat waves. Not worth the bullet or the chase. He'd collect bounty on the others. As he gathered his gear, flashes of memory ambushed him like they always did after gunfire. Memories of another time, another uniform. Of orders he'd refused to follow. The massacre at Whispering Creek 7 years ago had changed everything. Logan had been a decorated officer then, until he'd witnessed Colonel Harrington ordering the slaughter of an Apache village, women and children included. He'd drawn his weapon on his own men to stop it, saved who he could. The military had discharged him quietly. Better than a firing squad, they'd said. After that came the whiskey years, then the loss of Sarah and little Thomas to fever. Now there was just the hunt, the chase, the temporary satisfaction of bringing in men who deserved what was coming to them. It wasn't justice, but it was something. Logan mounted his backup horse and set course for Tucson, where bounties would be paid and whiskey would wash away the faces of the dead for another night. The trail wound through a narrow passage where shadows provided momentary relief from the punishing heat. That's when he saw them, tracks too fresh to miss. Multiple horses, heavily laden, moving fast. And something else that made his blood run cold. The impression of dragged bodies or bound captives. Logan recognized the pattern immediately. Human traffickers, the worst kind. Those who specialized in capturing Apache women to sell across the border. The territory was crawling with such vermin since the cavalry had pushed the tribes into smaller and smaller territories. He dismounted, studying the sign like it was a book only he could read. 8 riders at least. Among the hoof prints were partial footprints, small, likely female. He found a torn piece of deer skin with traditional Apache beadwork. Logan wasn't looking for more trouble. The smart play was to continue to Tucson, collect his money and find a warm bed. But something pulled at him. The ghosts of those he couldn't save at Whispering Creek, perhaps. He followed the tracks for an hour before the canyon opened into a small clearing. The sight that greeted him froze the breath in his lungs. 4 Apache women bound to the broken remains of a wagon, their skin blistered from exposure, lips cracked from thirst. Vultures circled overhead, patient gamblers waiting for their winnings. Logan scanned the horizon through his field glass, checking for an ambush. Nothing but the vast emptiness of the desert. Whoever had left these women here had done so hours ago, perhaps intending to return later, or perhaps leaving them as bait. He approached slowly, rifle ready, eyes constantly sweeping the landscape. The women recoiled as he neared, all except one, who met his gaze with defiance even in her weakened state. "Easy," Logan said, kneeling beside the first woman. He pulled his hunting knife and cut through the ropes. "I'm not here to hurt you." When he reached the defiant one, he noticed something in her eyes. Not just fear or hatred, but recognition. She studied his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Water," Logan said, offering his canteen. The woman took it with trembling hands. "Ah, hey, hey," she whispered. "Thank you in Apache." Then in broken English, "You, Major Stone?" Logan froze. Few knew that name anymore. Fewer still among the Apache people. "Who are you?" he asked. "Kaya, daughter of Chief Grey Wolf." The name hit Logan like a physical blow. Grey Wolf, the war chief who had fought alongside him to save the survivors at Whispering Creek. A man Logan had believed long dead. "Your father? He lives." Before she could answer, Kaya's eyes widened. In a fluid motion, she threw herself against Logan, knocking him sideways just as a rifle shot cracked through the air. The bullet kicked up dust where he'd been kneeling a second before. Logan rolled behind the wagon wheel, drawing his Colt in one smooth movement. A lone rider had appeared on the ridge above them, rifle aimed for a second shot. Logan took a breath, steadied his hand, and fired. The rider tumbled from his saddle, dead before he hit the ground. Kaya was already moving, dragging herself toward the fallen man's horse. "More come," she said, her voice urgent. "Many more. The Scorpion's men." Logan had heard that name whispered in saloons from Texas to Colorado. Nathaniel the Scorpion, Reed, a man who'd made his fortune in guns, whiskey, and human misery. A man with a particular hatred for the Apache. Logan made his decision in an instant. "Can you all ride?" The women nodded weakly. "Then we're leaving." "Now." As they mounted, Kaya pointed to the eastern horizon. "My village, 3 days." Logan shook his head. "We'll be dead in 3 hours if we don't find better ground." Night was falling as Logan led the women into a box canyon he knew from previous hunts. Defensible, with a hidden spring trickling from the rocks. As the women drank and bathed their wounds, Logan set up a small camp, building a fire in a recessed area where the light wouldn't be visible from outside the canyon. He distributed jerky from his saddlebag and checked his ammunition. 18 rounds for the Winchester, 5 for the Colt. Not enough if Reed brought his full crew. Kaya watched him with curious eyes as he cleaned his weapons. "You teach," she said suddenly. "Teach what?" She pointed to the rifle of the dead tracker, which Logan had brought with them. "Teach shoot, to fight." Logan considered her for a moment. She was young, maybe 20, but her eyes held the hardness of someone who'd seen too much suffering. "Your father never taught you?" A shadow crossed her face. "Father taught bow. Knife." She mimicked pulling back a bowstring. "Not gun." Logan hesitated, then nodded. "All right, basics only. We might need every gun before this is over." As the other women rested, Logan showed Kaya how to load, aim, and fire the dead man's Winchester. She was a quick study, her hands steady even as he explained the kick of the rifle and the importance of breathing control. "My father spoke of you," she said quietly as they sat by the fire later. "The white soldier who turned his gun on his own men to save our people." Logan stared into the flames. "I didn't save enough of them." "You saved my mother. Me." Her eyes reflected the firelight. "Reed, the one you call Scorpion, he was there too, but not as soldier. He showed soldiers the way to our village. For money." Logan's head snapped up. "Reed was at Whispering Creek? He was the guide?" This was news that shifted the ground beneath him. He'd always believed the massacre had been Harrington's doing alone. Kaya nodded. He hates Apache, sells Apache women across border, sells guns to some Apache who fight settlers, makes war between everyone. She leaned closer. 2 summers ago, he returned, killed my mother, now hunts me. Why you specifically? I saw his face. I know what he did. She touched a pouch hanging at her neck. I have proof. Paper with names. Men who pay him. Before Logan could ask more, a sound froze them both. The distant whinny of a horse on the night wind. They're coming, Logan whispered, reaching for his rifle. Wake the others, quietly. Dawn painted the canyon walls blood red as Logan positioned the women behind rock formations. He'd spent the night teaching them rudimentary shooting skills, surprised at how quickly they adapted, particularly Kaya, who handled the Winchester as if born to it. Remember, he instructed, wait until they are in the canyon, aim for the center of the body, make each shot count. The riders appeared as silhouettes against the rising sun. 6 men, heavily armed, led by a tall figure on a black stallion. Reed, Kaya whispered, her knuckles white around the rifle. Logan studied the approaching men through his field glass. No, not Reed. His lieutenant, probably. The riders entered the canyon cautiously, rifles ready. Logan waited until they reached the narrowest point, then fired the first shot. The lead rider fell, creating instant chaos. The others scattered for cover as Logan and the women opened fire from multiple positions. The gunfight was brief but vicious. When it ended, 4 of Reed's men lay dead. 2 had escaped, including the lieutenant. But victory came at a price. Logan took a bullet in the thigh, and another had grazed his shoulder. As the adrenaline faded, pain flooded in, dropping him to one knee. Kaya was at his side instantly, tearing strips from her dress to bind his wounds. Must go, she urged. More will come. Logan's vision swam as he tried to stand. I need a minute. No minute. They return with more men. Despite his protests, Kaya and the other women helped Logan onto his horse. By midday, they were deep in Apache territory, following game trails known only to the tribal hunters. The fever hit Logan as the sun began to set. He slipped in and out of consciousness, aware only vaguely of being lowered from his horse, of cool hands on his forehead, of Kaya's voice speaking in rapid Apache to the others. In his delirium, Logan relived Whispering Creek, the screams, the gunfire, the faces of women and children as he tried to lead them to safety. But now a new face appeared in his fevered dreams, a man with cold eyes watching from horseback as the soldiers did their work. Reed, the Scorpion. Logan jerked awake, gasping. Night had fallen. He lay in a small cave, a fire burning low nearby. Kaya sat cross-legged beside him, grinding something in a wooden bowl. How long? He managed. 2 nights, she answered, not looking up from her work. Bullet poison your blood. I take out. She indicated his bandaged thigh. Use Apache medicine. You live. Logan tried to sit up, wincing at the pain. The others? Gone. To village. Bring help. She finally met his eyes. You spoke, in fever sleep, about Whispering Creek, about Reed. Logan fell back, exhaustion claiming him again. Reed has to pay for what he did. Yes, but not just Whispering Creek. Kaya set aside the bowl and moved closer. Reed sells guns to my brother Hawk, tells him to attack white settlements, then tells Army Apache are dangerous, must be killed, creates war that feeds his business. Your brother works with Reed. Logan couldn't hide his surprise. Hawk was away when Reed attacked our village. When he returned, found mother dead, me gone. Reed told him soldiers did it, filled his heart with hate. Her voice cracked slightly. Now Hawk leads young warriors, attacks settlers, does not listen to Grey Wolf anymore. Logan processed this information through his pain-fogged mind. And your father? Lives. but eyes now dark, cannot see. Reed visits him, pretends friendship, brings gifts, while turning son against father. By morning, Logan's fever had broken. Kaya's medicine, a mixture of dessert herbs and knowledge passed down through generations, had drawn out the infection. Though weak, he could stand with support. "We need to move," he said, checking his weapons. "Reed's men will have found the bodies by now." Kaya nodded. "My village 3 hours ride. Grey Wolf will protect us." Logan hesitated. "Your people might not welcome a white bounty hunter. You saved Grey Wolf's daughter. He will listen." They rode side by side through territory few white men had seen and lived to tell about. Kaya pointed out water sources hidden in the seemingly barren landscape, taught Logan the Apache names for the plants and animals they passed. As they traveled, Logan found himself studying her, not just as a woman, but as a warrior born of a proud tradition. There was strength in her that reminded him of the best soldiers he'd fought alongside. Not a romantic attraction, but a respect that transcended the boundaries between their worlds. "Why did you become bounty hunter?" she asked as they rested the horses near a hidden spring. Logan's hand went instinctively to the worn photograph in his breast pocket. Sarah and Thomas, frozen in time. "Lost my family to fever. Nothing left but hunting men who deserve catching." "You could have stayed soldier." "Not after Whispering Creek." He shook his head. "Couldn't follow orders that went against what's right." Kaya touched the medicine pouch at her neck. "My grandfather said a warrior's greatest weapon is knowing what to fight for." The silence that followed was broken by the distant sound of hoofbeats, many horses moving fast. They crested a ridge and saw the dust cloud approaching from the west. Riders, at least 12, moving with military precision. "Reed's men?" Logan asked. Kaya shook her head, her expression grim. "Apache, Hawk's warriors." Before they could retreat, war cries split the air. The Apache riders had spotted them. Escape was impossible. "Your brother will listen to you, right?" Logan asked, fighting to control his nervous horse. The look Kaya gave him held no comfort. "Hawk listens only to revenge now." The warriors surrounded them, faces painted for battle. At their center rode a young man whose features mirrored Kaya's, though twisted with hatred. "Sister," he spat in Apache, before switching to English for Logan's benefit. "You bring white man to our lands? After what they did to our mother?" "Hawk, this man saved me," Kaya replied, her chin high. "He fights against the one who truly killed our mother. Reed." Hawk's laugh was cold. "Reed is our ally, brings us weapons to fight the white devils." His eyes narrowed at Logan. "This one is bounty hunter, hunts Apache for money." "He lies to you, brother. Reed was at Whispering Creek. He guided the soldiers to our village." "Silence!" Hawk gestured to his warriors. "Bind the white man. He dies at the village, before the eyes of our people." As rough hands pulled Logan from his horse and tied his wrists, he caught Kaya's eye. Her message was clear. "Don't fight, not yet." The journey to the Apache village was a blur of dust and pain as Logan was dragged behind a horse, his wounded leg leaving a trail of blood in the sand. By the time they arrived, his consciousness flickered like a candle in the wind. Through swollen eyes, he saw the village. Lodges arranged in a circle, women gathering children as the warriors returned. At the center, seated on a blanket before the largest lodge, was an old man, his unseeing eyes turned toward the commotion. Grey Wolf, once a legendary war chief, now a blind elder watching his tribe torn apart by forces he couldn't see but surely felt. As Logan was pulled before him, a new figure emerged from the chief's lodge. Tall, well-dressed in frontier clothing, with a revolver on each hip and eyes as cold as a rattlesnake's. Nathaniel the Scorpion. Reed had been waiting for them. Reed's face registered shock for only an instant before smoothing into a practiced smile. "Well, well, Logan Stone, Long way from anywhere a man like you belongs. Logan spat blood onto the dirt. Funny, I was about to say the same to you, Reed. Hawk stepped between them, confused. You know this white man? Reed placed a hand on Hawk's shoulder. An old acquaintance, a hunter of Apache. His voice carried across the gathered crowd. A man who takes gold for bringing in your people, dead or alive. Murmurs of anger rippled through the tribe. Kaya pushed forward. He lies. This man saved me and our sisters from Reed's men, who left us to die in the sun. Reed's laugh was theatrical. The girl is confused from her ordeal. This man, he pointed at Logan, is known as Apache Hunter in territorial courts. He tracked your sisters for bounty. Grey Wolf raised a hand, silencing the crowd. His blind eyes seemed to search the air before him. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of decades of leadership. Bring the white man closer. Warriors dragged Logan before the chief. Up close, Logan could see the scars of old battles mapping Grey Wolf's face, the milky film covering eyes that had once been sharp as an eagle's. You have name? The chief asked. Logan Stone. Once soldier. Logan hesitated. Yes, once. Grey Wolf's head tilted, as if listening to something beyond the words. Speak more. Your voice. Familiar. Reed stepped forward. Chief, this man... Silence! Grey Wolf's command cracked like a whip. Let him speak. Logan took a painful breath. Then in halting Apache he had learned years ago, he spoke the words that had once passed between them on a blood-soaked morning. Shie hauti du yinadao, ndi yi son du bi hojo yili. The sun rises from the east, but courage rises from the heart. Grey Wolf's weathered face transformed. The soldier from Whispering Creek, who turned his gun on his own kind to save our people. Reed's mask slipped, revealing the predator beneath. His hand moved toward his gun. This is some trick. No trick. Grey Wolf's voice cut through the air. I know this voice. This man saved many of our tribe when others sought our destruction. Hawk looked between his father and Reed, confusion and anger warring on his face. But Reed said... Reed lies. Kaya stepped forward, pulling the pouch from her neck. I have proof. Papers taken from his camp. Names of men who pay him to create war between Apache and white settlers, to justify killing our people and taking our land. Reed's gun cleared its holster, aimed at Kaya. Enough! A shot rang out, but not from Reed's gun. The scorpion staggered, blood blooming on his shoulder. Logan had managed to free one hand, grab a pistol from the warrior beside him, and fire in one desperate motion. Chaos erupted. Reed's men, positioned throughout the village, opened fire. Apache warriors responded in kind. Women and children scattered for cover as bullets tore through lodges. Logan rolled behind a water barrel, pain forgotten in the rush of combat. He spotted Kaya dragging her father to safety, Reed escaping in the confusion. Hawk! Logan shouted over the gunfire. Reed is getting away. He's the one who killed your mother. Something changed in Hawk's eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or the first glimmer of truth breaking through years of manipulation. He hesitated, then turned to pursue Reed. Logan fought his way through the battle, dispatching two of Reed's men with precision shots. His leg wound had reopened, leaving a trail of blood, but adrenaline kept him moving. He found Kaya and Grey Wolf sheltered behind the chief's lodge. Reed is heading for the canyon, Logan gasped. Hawk went after him. Alone, my son will die, Grey Wolf said, his unseeing eyes somehow finding Logan's face. Reed is serpent, deadly when cornered. I'll go. Logan checked his borrowed pistol. 2 bullets left. But I need a rifle. Kaya disappeared into the lodge, returning with an old Winchester, the twin of Logan's own. My father's. From before his eyes went dark. Logan took it reverently. I'll bring your son back. And if you cannot? Grey Wolf asked. Logan met Kaya's eyes. Then I'll make sure Reed never hurts another Apache. The canyon where Reed had fled was a natural trap. Steep walls rising hundreds of feet, a single path winding through its heart. Perfect for an ambush. Logan moved silently, years of tracking skills guiding him. The sound of a single gunshot echoed against the stone walls, followed by a cry of pain. Ahead, where the canyon narrowed to a choke point, Logan found Hawk sprawled on the ground, blood seeping from a wound in his side. The young warrior was still breathing, but unconscious. Beyond him, using an outcropping as cover, Reed waited with a rifle, scanning for any pursuit. Logan assessed the situation with a hunter's precision. No clear shot, no way to reach Hawk without exposing himself. Reed had the high ground and better cover. Then Logan noticed something, a ledge about 30 feet up the canyon wall, accessible by a narrow trail. If he could reach it, the climb was excruciating, his wounded leg threatening to give way with each step. By the time Logan reached the ledge, his vision was blurred with pain and exhaustion. But he had what he needed, a clear angle on Reed's position. Logan settled the Winchester against his shoulder, controlling his breathing as he had taught Kaya to do. One shot, make it count. As he prepared to squeeze the trigger, a rock dislodged beneath his foot, clattering down the canyon wall. Reed spun, firing wildly toward the sound. A bullet grazed Logan's arm, nearly causing him to drop the rifle. "Stone!" Reed called out, his voice echoing. "I know it's you up there. Let's talk this through. Professional to professional." Logan remained silent, repositioning for another shot. "Think about it, Major," Reed continued. "What do you care about these savages? We could partner up. There's money to be made in this territory for men like us." Logan lined up his shot. "We're nothing alike, Reed." "No, we both kill for money. Only difference is I'm honest about it." "Difference is I don't murder women and children," Logan replied, his finger tightening on the trigger. A movement below caught his eye. Hawk, regaining consciousness, reaching for his knife. Reed noticed too, turning his rifle toward the wounded Apache. Logan fired. The shot echoed like thunder through the canyon. Reed staggered, dropped to one knee, but somehow kept his grip on his rifle, swinging it toward Logan's position. Logan's second shot missed as pain seared through his leg. He lost his footing, sliding several feet down the rock face before catching himself. When he looked up, Reed was gone from his position. "Looking for me, Major?" The voice came from directly below. Reed had circled around, blood streaming from a wound in his chest, but still dangerous. A scorpion with one last sting. His rifle was aimed upward, directly at Logan, who was exposed on the rock face with no cover. "Goodbye, Major." A blade flashed in the sunlight, burying itself in Reed's back. Hawk, barely conscious but driven by newfound clarity, had thrown his knife with the last of his strength. Reed's rifle fired harmlessly into the air as he fell forward, dead before he hit the ground. In the aftermath, as Apache warriors arrived to help carry Hawk home, Logan found himself facing a choice he'd never expected. Grey Wolf, upon hearing of his son's survival and Reed's death, had offered Logan a place among their people, not as an outsider, but as a brother. "Your path crossed ours for a reason," the old chief said as they sat before the council fire that night. "Perhaps the spirits have more for us to learn from each other." Logan looked around the circle, at Kaya, whose strength had never faltered, at Hawk, whose eyes now held understanding where hatred had lived, at the faces of people who had every reason to kill him but instead offered kinship. For a moment, he saw a different life, one where the boundaries between worlds could be crossed, where the wounds of the past might heal. But Logan knew the reality of the frontier. The army would never stop pushing. Men like Reed would never stop exploiting. And a white man living among Apache would only bring more danger to people who had already suffered too much. "I can't stay," he finally said, "but I won't simply disappear either." In the dawn light, Logan prepared to leave. His leg had been treated again by the tribe's healer, his supplies replenished. As he mounted his horse, Kaya approached, Grey Wolf's Winchester in her hands. "Take this," she said, "to remember your promise." Logan accepted the rifle with the respect it deserved. "What promise is that?" "To be bridge between our worlds, to speak truth when others speak lies." He nodded, understanding the weight of what she offered. Not just a weapon, but a purpose. "There's a settlement 3 days south," Logan said. "Decent folks led by a former Union officer who respects the treaties. I'll speak to him about establishing fair trade with your people." Grey Wolf joined them, guided by Hawk's supportive arm. "When you return, you will be welcomed as family." "And if trouble comes before then?" Logan asked. Kaya's smile held both warmth and steel. "Then we will face it as warriors should, together." As Logan rode away, the rising sun cast long shadows across the desert floor. For the first time since Whispering Creek, since losing Sarah and Thomas, he felt the weight on his soul lighten slightly. There were still battles to fight, still justice to seek. But now he fought not just to settle old scores, but to build something new from the ashes of the past. In a land where most men lived and died by the gun, Logan Stone had found a different weapon: truth. And in the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Arizona Territory, truth might prove the most powerful weapon of all. 5 years later, a stagecoach raced across the desert, pursued by bandits. As bullets flew and hope dwindled, riders appeared on the horizon. A mixed band of Apache warriors and frontier scouts, led by a graying man with a Winchester rifle and a warrior woman at his side. The legend of Logan Stone and Kaya, daughter of Grey Wolf, had only just begun.